tape right now because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
So Cornel West came out with a big announcement yesterday, right after RFK Jr. dropped out. But let's remember what he used to say about Dr. Fauci.
What a blessing to just be in conversation with you, though, brother. What a great exemplar of integrity, honesty, and decency you have been over your 79 years on the globe.
So that's what he used to say about Dr. Fauci. Now, I can overlook that because I didn't know anything about Dr. Fauci at the beginning of this either. So, but that's what he said.
What a blessing to just be in conversation with you, though, brother. What a great exemplar of integrity, honesty, and decency you have been over your 79 years on the globe.
I don't know why he got to go over the top like that. His 79 years on the globe, holy cow, why he would say all that. But he did. Here is what he said yesterday. This is what he tweeted out.
I want to speak to my brothers and sisters of all colors who are concerned about not just the vaccine, but the role of the pharmaceutical company in shaping public policy, not allowing the various voices to be heard, the role of censorship, the attempt to impose closure on various voices that would help us understand what's really going on when it comes to healthcare policy vis-a-vis vaccine. I want a truth commission to find out what happened in the past, and I want to make sure that each and every one of us have fair access to the truth.
Boy, you've come a long way. You went all the way from honoring Anthony Fauci to suddenly wanting a commission to figure out where Anthony Fauci lied to us. Wow. That's amazing. So guess what? RFK Jr., he comes in and says, so grateful to you, Cornel, for commitment to ending the corruption. And what I say is I will join with anyone to do good and no one to do bad. So if Cornel is serious about that, that's great. I know he doesn't want to ever hear from me again, but Cornel West says, thank you, my dear brother. We must fight against all forms of corruption, greed, hatred, and genocide. God bless you and your precious family. It would have been more helpful if Cornel West was on this in real time. The fact that he's way late to this party is a little annoying, but I'm glad to have him, right? Anyway, so Mary Talley Bowden, who we've had on this show, hey, she says, would like you to add your name to the list of politicians calling for the COVID shots to be pulled off the market and pledging not to take donations from Big Pharma. Hey, nobody responded to that. Post-Duopolis says, a little late for this, bro, talking to Cornell. I'll take it, but yeah, it's a little annoying. The people who I thought would stand out and say something when they were firing 70,000 workers for not taking an experimental medical treatment, I thought it would be Cornel West standing up for workers. He didn't. I thought it would be him standing up against this tyranny, and he didn't. So, but then people are giving him shit. So now he's on the right side of it. Nobody's up to date that I know on their 10th, because you're supposed to be on your 10th shot right now. You're supposed to be. Do you know anybody who's on their 10th shot? Even Fauci said he was only on 6 when he got COVID last time. So at some point, it's gone down to that the overwhelming majority of people are not following the CDC guidelines on taking their boosters, as they call them, boosters. So at some point, people stop listening to the CDC's guidelines. They stop listening to Fauci. They stop listening to Collins. They stop listening to the mainstream news. At some point, most Americans did. At some point. Except for people like Dr. Lucky Tran. It's sad to see Cornel West go deep into anti-vax COVID denialism and anti-science. No, he's actually saying we need to look into this scientifically. So, and all they have is smears. You don't have any questions about... They lied about masks. They lied about funding the gain of function that gave us the virus. They lied about where the virus came from. They lied about herd immunity. They lied about natural immunity. They lied about transmission, contraction. There wasn't a thing they didn't lie about it. But you're still going to call people anti-vax, COVID denialists, and anti-science for looking into it? Hey, if you're going to go to a doctor named Lucky Tran, you deserve whatever whatever you end up with. Good luck. Dr. Lucky Tran. Here is some social done left. SDL. Insane anti-vaxxer RFK drops out. Insane. Insane. Again, that's why they won't bring him on television, because every time RFK's asked about the vaccines, he makes complete sense. He makes perfect sense. Insane. That's why you can never trust somebody who doesn't have a real name on Twitter. The next day, you start going for the anti-vax vote. So people who want to look into a health problem are now anti-vax. It's just amazing. Honestly, as long as it keeps them from voting Trump, I don't care. Good luck and Godspeed winning over the pro-COVID nutters. At almost 3,000 likes. Wow. So morons like this are the problem, right? I would like to ask SDL, are you on your 10th shot? Because that's what the CDC recommends. Are you on your 10th? And how's that going for you? How you feel physically? How's your immune system? These would be my questions for you. But I don't know. I don't want to be anti-science. Fucking morons. Rand Paul, he says, this is an ad that was running. He said, I've launched a bipartisan investigation to examine the origins of COVID, gain of function research, and Dr. Fauci's cover-up attempts, all to prevent a future pandemic. Will you stand with me? Get to the bottom of what really happened? Add your name. I wonder if Cornell's added his name. I agree with this position, but kindly, Dr. West, you're late with this message. You dismissed Jimmy Dore when he begged you to change your tune, and you mocked him. He did mock me a little. It looks like Jimmy Dore got through to you. To be honest, it's a little late, and when it mattered, you were nowhere to be found. That is true. When it mattered, he was nowhere to be found. But I'll cut him slack. I'm glad he's on board. I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. I'm willing to let go, forgive and forget. He went around slandering me, even though he's working with Peter Dow, pretending he didn't know what he was doing, saying that Joe Biden's the lesser of two evils. I had big hopes for his campaign. It turns out he's not much of a politician. I mean, so here's the weird thing that I'll show you. Here's the weird thing that Cornel West did when he came on our show. So he was talking about this last year, about a commission to look into the vaccines. And so he's running for president. So we agreed. So when you get somebody to agree with you, you agree to agree, don't you? But then he went out of his way. He went out of his way to try to find a way to disagree with me and stick a shiv in me, which is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to be doing if you're trying to be actually running for president or trying to build a coalition. Why not just agree with me? Why? Well, I'll play it for you. Here it is.
We know the books are out there, but they have a truth commission so that we can see what voices were marginalized, what voices were pushed aside, and make sure it never happens again.
So there I am. I'm in solidarity with you on this point. Let's do that. By the way, the COVID issue, and if as many people died as they say have died from the intervention from COVID, it's the biggest story of our lifetime. It's the biggest story of it's way bigger than the Iraq War. It's bigger than any story. I'm sorry, it is. If you look into the excess deaths and how many people have died, it's the biggest story of our lifetime. There's no bigger story than this. And so we're in agreement, and now he's going to go out of his way to disagree with me.
Resonate with the spirit of what my green black brothers and sisters are saying, but the Green Party itself does allow this kind of disagreement and so on. But I'll say this though, brother, I know I got to go, but I must say, see, this is where you and I do in some ways live in different worlds, because
so now he's going to say he and I live in different worlds. I know I live in the real world of workers because I'm out, but he's lived in ivory towers for at least the last 40, 45 years, if not longer. So here we go.
As crucial and as important as the issue of vaccines and the COVID situation was, when you say that's probably the most important issue in your lifetime or in the last 25 or 30 years, in light of all the wars, in light of what Palestinians are going through, in light of what workers are going through, 63% of them are living paycheck to paycheck, in terms of all the vicious attacks of the police and the murders and so forth, yet this vaccine issue is the most important thing. I say, okay, that's my dear brother Jimmy. He's got a right to raise his voice. I'm not going to in any way push it away, but I just live in a different world. As important as vaccines have been, if I had another chance, I'd be leaning much more with the Black Caucus. But when I think of the weightiest issues, vaccines does not come immediately to mind.
Why would you go out of your way to find a way to disagree with me on that? If you think it's important and crucial, leave it at that. What that made no sense. Him trying to discredit the argument made no sense whatsoever. Zero. I've never seen a politician do that in my life. And so I was upset that where was he when we needed his voice? So, you know, in retrospect, I probably should have just let it go and say, hey, we agree on that. Let's go. But it bothered me that when 41% of black-owned businesses got shuttered during COVID because of unscientific lockdowns, he didn't say a word. When workers were getting kicked out of their jobs by the hundreds of thousands because they wouldn't take an experiment, he didn't say anything. He didn't stand in solidarity with anybody. So it bugged me that he said that he goes out of his way to try to diminish. And there's millions and millions of people dead. And look at all the devastation that the interventions over COVID costs, the lockdowns, the unscientific lockdowns, the isolation, the people. Now we know that the intubations were killing people. The denial of early treatments, the lying about early treatments, calling things horse dewormers. Why aren't you? So here's what I go on to say this.
It just doesn't. That's the kind of world we live in, brother.
Okay.
Maybe I spend,
Well, here it is. The black business owners collapsed by 41%. Black business because of lockdowns. Do you care yet?
Well,
almost half of black businesses completely shuttered. You want to talk about something else? Really? Permanently. 41% in U.S. lockdowns. Black business owners' ranks collapse. 70,000 workers in one state were fired because of vaccine mandates. When are you going to care? Do they all have to be trans? When are you going to care about these workers? What are you going to care about? What are you going to care about this?
They have to be trans for me to care.
You don't care. You don't care. Why don't you care about this?
Why would you accuse me? Of course I care about it.
You're saying it's not important.
I didn't say it wasn't important. I said it was not the most fundamental issue in my lifetime the last 30 years.
Forced medical experiments? Forced medical experiments that the scheme.
Where is the nuance?
Oh my God.
Where's the complexity?
So you missed this story and you're not interested in getting it right.
You agree with Jimmy Dore.
So you missed this story and you're not interested. Well, Dr. West. So I probably shouldn't have been as combative as I was. if I had to do it over again, I would have just showed him that and said I was disappointed that he, and it doesn't have to be the most important thing to you, but you should definitely look into it. And I was disappointed that you weren't there when we needed you. But anyway, yeah, I probably should have been less combative. So, but you know, I'm an emotional guy. That whole interview was emotional. And so I'm glad to have him on board. I'm glad to see him out there sticking his chin out, and he's getting his chin kicked in for even now, just saying, hey, we should have a vaccine commission look into it. We should have a commission look into COVID, and people are beating him up over it. So as at my second, at this part anyway, this part of it, if I had, I don't know. It still bothers me that the people who I looked up to were nowhere to be found during COVID. Didn't have a question. We're giving tongue baths to Anthony Fauci instead of questioning him. I could never get Anthony Fauci on my show. He'd never come anywhere near me. And so anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. But it's good to have Cornel West on, and I'm willing to let bygones be bygones and water under the bridge. But I guarantee you, he'll never talk to me again. Okay, over to stuff.
You know, Fierce Siphon said, Jimmy, the passion was justified, but Cornell is an academic. He's not prepared for that, which I think is a great point. You know, he was not prepared for pushback, and a lot of people aren't. It's very hard, you know, to be prepared to have a conversation on controversial issues if you're not prepared to have those conversations. I mean, we were even talking to people at protests last week, and it was confounding where you would go and try to talk to somebody. I tried to talk to some people that were union members who were pro-Kamala, and I said, hey, can you go on camera and can we talk about this? You know, why you think she's pro-union and what are elements? And none of them wanted to go on camera. None of them wanted to have a conversation. And I think, you know, here's somebody who's running for president, and he needed to have that conversation. So I'm glad you had that conversation. And you know what, Jimmy? I'm also glad that you just said, hey, maybe I wouldn't have been so hard on him. Maybe, you know, maybe I shouldn't have done it. That's genuine, and that, you know, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I could.
Back
Yeah,
to Jimmy.
I need to be.
McIlhany, you successfully hit metal 17 times, so you are now proud owner of this photograph of motor car. I am happy. But property is theft, so you are now under arrest. Well enough.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit
Isn't it swell? The memes make themselves. They found a rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle 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 digga digga diddle diddle dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish Shmuley man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, you know, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison, but they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, you know, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, you know, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators, and they're going to have riots on their hands. You know, they're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. You know, we have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, you know, what we need, what needs to be done. And, you know, taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. I mean, you know, don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, you know, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, you know, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, you know, this system and those backing the officials running this system, you know, want people to believe that revolution means violence, you know, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. You know, when people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where you think they get it from? They get it from us,
from the people. You know, they get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it. Then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, you know, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. You know, every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. I mean, our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. You know, men, women, and children were murdered. And not just moved babies, you know. What about all of the young men, women, you know, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, you know, by drug pushers? I mean, you know, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, you know, making a quick buck, you know. I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, you know, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, you know, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. You know, how long are people going to sit back and beg, you know, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years all you've gotten is a slap in the face? All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.